On today's episode of truLOCAL TV, I am talking with Mikhaila Peterson all about the carnivore diet. Hey guys, welcome back to truLOCAL TV. I am your host, Stephanie K, and today I am very excited because we have a very fun guest, Mikhaila Peterson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm really excited you're here because there's a lot of conversation going on about you. You've been on a lot of podcasts, in a lot of media, and your story and kind of where you're at with this carnivore diet that we're starting to hear a lot about. So for anyone who is new to you, who hasn't heard your story, let's just start there. I know it could be a little bit long, so let's kind of hear what's going on and how you got to where you're at today.
So I was really, really sick for a very long time. I started showing symptoms of arthritis when I was 2. I was diagnosed with juvenile idiopathic arthritis when I was 7. I was put on antidepressants for really severe depression in grade 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So my health problems just piled up and piled up and piled up.
From a very young age.
Yeah, just from like basically 6 months old.
Okay.
I started getting really tired when I was in about grade 8, which I kind of chalked up to being a teenager.
Yeah.
And that got worse and worse and worse. And eventually I was diagnosed with idiopathic hypersomnia.
Okay.
Basically chronic fatigue. My arthritis, even though I was on a whole bunch of medication, I was the first kid in Canada to be put on this biologic drug called Enbrel.
Okay.
So I was on Enbrel and methotrexate injections since I was 8. And regardless of the medication, I ended up with a hip and ankle replacement when I was 17. So
Wow.
It was really severe arthritis. So I went off to university. My mental illness, the depression got much worse in university. And now I know that was because of lifestyle. But I didn't know that at the time because I didn't realize what you eat can have an effect that dramatic on your mental health.
When you're going through, you're 17, you go through these surgeries, you go off to university, or any of these issues that are presenting, at any point is diet a conversation?
No. Okay. And we didn't eat unhealthily. We were eating how we thought we were supposed to eat. So, limiting sugar, whole grains, trying to be healthy that way.
Yep.
Very varied diet. But no,
eat your vegetables, the standard conversation.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And you don't eat, too much chocolate, just
junk food, whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that. But even then, nothing was discussed. If you do eat junk food, this might be contributing to your autoimmune disorder.
Right.
Nothing like that was brought up, or even thought about really. So I went away to university, and things got way worse. I tried a number of different medications for depression because I couldn't get that under control properly. I was still on my arthritis medication. I started taking Adderall eventually for the idiopathic hypersomnia, which actually helped that a lot, but it's not a particularly pleasant drug to be on long term.
Yep.
And then I started getting rashes. So then I started getting rashes on my back, and then I started getting rashes on my face.
Okay.
And so it was just, and that was the end. That was what I could handle. Yeah.
Right.
It was I can handle all these health problems, but I can't handle it affecting how I look on the outside. At least I can
you can
hide from, hide but you can't when people can see it.
And at this point, how old are you?
I was 22.
Okay. So this has literally been the saga going on for 21, 22 years.
Yeah. Just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Although it got a bit better after the hip and ankle replacement, but it's because I just removed the problems.
Right.
When I was 23, I came across this rash. I did some genetic testing. I got my whole family to do 23andMe because I thought maybe there's some sort of genetic problem going on. My dad has similar depression issues, so I thought, and so does my grandpa, so I thought maybe there's something I can track genetically.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really, but the celiac gene came up, and it's fairly, my dad doesn't have it, but my mom does. It's fairly prevalent in my family. And I thought, so I kind of looked into that because I'd heard about it and was like, okay, that's the only autoimmune disorder that's affected directly by diet.
And was that really the first thing that triggered this diet conversation, seeing that celiac gene? Okay.
So I looked into celiac and then found out that autoimmune diseases can couple, and maybe I actually had celiac disease because my rash resembled celiac rash, dermatitis herpetiformis, just dead on. I guess the other symptom I forgot to mention is when I was 14, got really tired, I got really itchy.
Okay.
So I was just itchy for, the next 8 years.
And as you're going through this up to that point, is there a conversation about how these things are interrelated at all, or were they treated as isolated?
Yeah. It was all isolated.
Okay.
And we brought that up to a number of my doctors, and they were like, well, maybe it's side effects of some of the medication.
Okay.
So we couldn't figure out exactly what it was. So yeah, I found out about celiac disease. I kind of looked into gluten, and then I found a lot of articles about what kind of effect gluten has on your gut.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh wow, there's actual hard scientific evidence that this maybe isn't a good idea for everybody. So I cut it out right away. And that was the first step into diet. And that didn't make a huge difference.
Okay.
But maybe it made a bit of a difference. It was really hard to tell. And
or...
and I'm pretty skeptical. So it's maybe it's summertime and I'm just feeling a little bit better.
Okay.
That fall, so that was 2015.
Okay.
September 2015, I went on an elimination diet. My mom dragged me to a naturopath I'd seen naturopaths and I'd seen a whole bunch of alternative health people, and I tried everything.
Right. Okay.
So I was pretty skeptical, and they gave me this kind of random elimination diet, and I looked at it and I thought, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I would be cutting out some foods and not other foods. So I kind of came up with my own, what I thought a hypoallergenic diet would be.
Okay. And was this just kind of you guessing based on what you thought you might
with no background or just guessing.
Intuition, if you will.
Yeah, kind of, right? And I limited everything to basically meat and vegetables, but not nightshades and rice.
Okay.
And I thought, I eliminated the top allergen foods, so soy and, nuts and eggs and things that a lot of people are allergic to.
Yeah.
And just tried that. And I didn't try it for very long because I didn't think it was really going to do anything. But I tried it for a week, and then I reintroduced. I guess I started to have cravings because I went from a really, really high carb diet to that, which was really low carb compared to what I was doing.
Right.
And I didn't realize that when you drop a lot of carbs, you get cravings, because I just didn't know about this at all.
Which is common, I would assume. Yep.
Yeah, so I think I probably started experiencing cravings and thought, screw it, this diet isn't going to work anyway. An autoimmune disorder is much more complicated than something that could be caused by diet.
Yeah.
So I reintroduced bananas, and 2 days later, I was in the grocery store and my knees locked up and I couldn't walk.
Wow.
And that wasn't a flare-up that was usual. I didn't have flare-ups like that. And I thought, oh my God, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
So I really stuck with that. Over the next year, I kind of cut down to basically meat and some limited fruit like apples, pears, and some vegetables, and kept my symptoms under control, got off of all my medication, which I'd been on, for over a decade. So a lot of medication. I stopped taking Adderall.
Just by that dramatic diet change.
Yeah. And it took a while, 3 months, and my fatigue went away. 3 months, my depression lifted, which was the most shocking thing that I experienced, because I thought, okay, the arthritis maybe, because celiac disease can give you arthritic symptoms too, so maybe that's food, but never
body things as opposed to that mental component.
Yeah, never the mental component, especially considering it ran in my family.
Yeah.
So when that lifted, it was just the craziest experience. So I went off of all my medication and then tried to reintroduce foods for the next year, and had a miserable time trying to expand my diet.
Okay.
I couldn't get anything back.
Because you'd basically got down to meat and vegetables.
At that point I had apples and pears too.
Okay.
And that seemed totally fine.
Yeah.
And so I thought, after a year of trying to reintroduce and suffering these horrible food reactions where I just have an autoimmune disorder and mental illness again for a period of 2.5 weeks.
It would just rear its head.
And my skin would break out and I'd get itchy. It was horrible. After that, I just figured, okay, I'll just stick with the limited diet and be happy. I can get used to that. And then I got pregnant.
Okay.
And all my symptoms came back. They didn't come back as badly as I had had them before, but it was really frustrating to get to a certain point of health and then have your body change and have that not work anymore.
Yeah.
And so I cut down. I noticed that some of the carbier things I was eating, like sweet potatoes, I'd wake up and be itchier than usual the next day. So I just slowly cut down. I got rid of apples, pears, sweet potatoes. And eventually I went down to meat and greens. And I was eating meat and greens for 8 months, and I was still sometimes, my wrist was sore, so I figured this was maybe pregnancy.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. So I had my daughter, and then my symptoms didn't get any better.
Okay.
And so I was waking up with like sore wrist and things like arthritic wrist, itching, which isn't good if you have a baby because having a sore wrist in the morning is really not useful for that.
Yeah.
And in December 2017, I cut out vegetables.
Okay. Just completely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went down to beef and chicken.
Okay.
And then in the next month, I went down just to beef.
Okay.
So I noticed beef was making me feel
And was that just you being like, I've eliminated all this stuff, I'll just continue, or did you get an inkling or information from somewhere?
I had one of my friends send me a Joe Rogan interview podcast with Sean Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I watched that, and he said, I've been doing it for 2 years, and I was like, okay. So I started. It was like,
okay,
because I'd thought, especially during the pregnancy, I got a lot of pressure from not my close family, but other people about what I should be eating and how I'm not getting enough nutrients, especially when you're pregnant. Yeah, man. So I was like, I think, I can't drop the salad. I'm reacting to the salad, but I can't drop it or I'm going to get nutrient deficiencies and like die and hurt my baby.
Yeah.
So then
we've been told vegetables are just
necessary. Yeah. So once I saw Sean Baker and was like, well, he's still alive. Like, okay, I'll give it a shot because I can't live like this.
So what point was that? 2017?
December 2017.
Okay, and then you basically went down to just meat at that point. And have you been, so to fast forward a little bit, at this point now, how has that evolved, I guess, in the past 2 years or so? Are you still strictly on this all meat protocol? Okay.
So I was on it and I tried to reintroduce like organic olives.
Okay.
And it didn't go well. I had, maybe like half a jar over a couple days, and I had lower back pain and itching, and my mood dipped quite dramatically enough so that I was crying, and I'm a happy individual. I don't just cry. So I tried olives, and I figured if olives don't work, I'm just not doing it. So that's where I'm at now.
In this past 2 years, I guess is what it is. Have you dabbled at all, or have you really stuck to the
not really
carnivore diet, I guess is what it's
called.
I've
I've stuck to it. It's made me feel so much better.
Yeah.
That I haven't dabbled, but I think the main reason I haven't dabbled is because the reintroduction reactions are so horrible that it's hard to take that risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they last for an extended period of time, so it'll be, 3 weeks till the whole thing's over, but for at least 10 days, I won't be able to think very well. So then I'm kind of out of it for a while. And
so my understanding is there's a few different iterations of the carnivore diet. Some people might include, fish or poultry or whatever it may be. But for yourself personally, what does it look like?
A ruminant meat.
Okay.
So beef, bison, lamb, like elk, deer, any of that seems totally fine. Salt.
Okay.
And that's
salt.
it.
And do you use any oils or anything in your cooking?
No.
That's it. That's all. So then just paint us this final little picture. What does a typical day in the life look like in terms of your meals?
I generally eat, so now that I've been doing it for a while, I generally eat once or twice a day.
Okay.
Probably about like 1.5 pounds-ish a day.
Yeah.
So I will wake up, I don't eat breakfast, so I'll probably have a pretty solid, maybe like 14-ounce steak for lunch, and then depending on how much I do during the day, I'll have another one for dinner or half of one for dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically it.
And you're feeling good, cravings are gone, all that good
stuff?
stuff?
The one thing, doing the low-carb diet, when I did that, which was great, and it made me feel amazing before the pregnancy, I always had cravings. They weren't terrible. Like, obviously, you get over the main sugar cravings or the main grain cravings or the main dairy cravings. Yeah. But it was still like, oh, I wish, sometimes angel food cake would pop up in my head. I'd be like, I could really go for that. Yeah. And this has eliminated all of that. Okay. So that's been really interesting on this diet.
Amazing. So incredible health changes. Thank you so much for sharing that story. We have lots more questions from Mikhaila, so stay tuned for the next episode. But until then, be sure to subscribe for more awesome content.